Hey. Hello. Thank you for joining us. I'm Terry Larson, and we're here to watch a couple of videos, 4 videos actually, from Robert Reich that are presented by MoveOn.org. And I want to welcome everyone to this teach-in. I know there's quite a few of you online that are watching now and will be watching later. So we want to include you in this. There is an event page on Facebook where you can ask questions. It is called An Afternoon with Robert Reich. And you can go there and just put your questions up. And Pete is here to answer them and bring the questions here and also join in this discussion. I want to thank the people that have shown up here. Obviously, we're streaming this online, so our amount of people here in the studio is minimized, but we do have an audience at home, so we want to welcome you as well. We want to let you know that this weekend, thousands of people right now are gathered in spaces just like this to host teach-ins that will explore a range of ideas that could help save the economy. We want to be able to provide some solutions today, and this is kind of a teaser. This is a 12-part series that MoveOn.org and Robert Reich, who's our former labor secretary, have put together. We're only going to show 4 of those today, but it will hopefully inspire you to go and watch the rest of them. And there will be other activities that will be built around these videos. So this is just like an opening event that will launch the whole MoveOn.org movement and the opportunity for us all to have a say on what happens in our economy. I think there's some good things that will be presented. So before we get started, let's talk to a few members of our audience at the moment. Chris, if you want to switch the camera. There you go. Yes. So we have in our studio, if you all would introduce yourselves and just kind of give me a little brief idea why you're here and what city you're in.
Okay. My name is Christopher Stangolini. I live here in Clear Lake.
Oh, I'm sorry, you have to use our mic. Turn it on. And you can pass it around.
Okay.
It's a little loud.
My name is Christopher Stangolini. I am here because I believe that as individuals in our communities, we have a lot more power than what we give ourselves. When the ball starts rolling, Americans tend to be a little slow at picking up that ball, i.e. soccer, which is actually called football everywhere but here. Anyway, I think it's important for us to hear what our elected officials are doing or not doing to help rescue our economy.
Okay, great, thank you. For the rest of you, I'm going to just go ahead rather than have you come up, because actually in this part we're just supposed to give the city we live in and who we are. And I know that we have Robert Taylor, and you're from Clear Lake?
Yes, I'm from Clear Lake, Terry, yes.
Thank you. And Chris Franco, who is a world citizen, currently residing in Lower Lake. And of course, Peter Schiffman is here, and Mark Stangolini is here, and all of you visitors at home as well. So we can switch back over, Mark. So we want to give you a little background on MoveOn.org and what the point of this whole thing is from their perspective. MoveOn worked with former Secretary of Labor Robert Reich to produce a video series called The Big Picture: Ideas to Save the Economy. Their initial goal for this series was to launch some of the biggest, most common sense and game-changing ideas to save the economy through people-powered media, bypassing a corporate chokehold on progressive ideas. Now that they've released all 12 big picture videos, they're shifting to really focusing on how else to organize around these ideas to spread the word and build the movement they'll need to win real changes. And they see the national teach-ins today and tomorrow as a perfect next step. There's 300 teach-ins happening around the country between today and tomorrow. It's an opportunity to spread the essential ideas in these videos and deepen the understanding of Robert Reich's big ideas. And of course, we're going to be, this whole program will be available on the lcm-tv.com website, and then after that in the archives at lakecomagazine.org. Now, I personally decided to do this because obviously we are concerned about our environment. I have been involved in alternative money systems and other types of economic options over quite a few years. I did teach a class for the Permaculture Guild for a couple of years on alternative money systems, and it's something that is near and dear to my heart in how we can help our economy become stronger. And our personal beliefs are that we don't have any debt. You know, we don't believe in debt. So we have one little credit card, and it's got a $500 limit, and that's it. Everything else we save up until we can afford to buy it, and that way we don't have debt. And I know that's hard to do with houses, and we did get lucky in that, but in other things, there are ways for you to relieve yourself of debt, and I think that's one of the big problems with our economy is our debt system. So I'm here to help enlighten people on what kind of things could be done to help relieve their debt as well, but other things globally on what we can do with the economy. So Pete, you want to give us an idea of why you're here today? And I'll switch cameras with you.
Besides being your husband?
Yeah, besides doing what you're told.
I'm here obviously to help my wife with this presentation on, but I also have a background in business, accounting, and economics, so I'm trying to throw my...
Your mic pack?
Yep, it's on. Can you hear me now? No.
Okay, you want to check to make, I see the light on now.
Can you hear me now?
Stand by.
As usual. Technical difficulties.
Every time we think we have this thing down, something comes along and surprises us again. Say something.
Test, 1, 2.
Nope.
Hang on a second, folks.
Okay, so while Peter's taking care of that, let me pop in real quick and we'll switch cameras and go over to Robert, because I think Chris has already given us his reason for being here. If you would like to come on the microphone and let us know why you're here,
Sure.
that would be great.
Thank you, Terry. The economy of the United States and around the world is in trouble. We are seeing a lot of problems with the situation of the Greek markets, but here at home, we're seeing problems really, really bad with our education system and other factors. It's very important that we learn what we can do to settle these situations, and I'm really glad that Terry and Peter and those who are watching this teach-in around the country can definitely learn what we can do to alleviate the economic crisis we're going through. So I hope what I can learn from this video, I can definitely share it with others out there.
Awesome, thank you so much. Chris, did you have anything to add to that? You have to come to the mic.
Not much, just that I'm here for the new information.
Okay, very good, thank you. Before we go any further, I want to just turn this little switch back here on. And Pete is still getting his microphone figured out. I'm not sure what's going on with that.
We're good.
We got it? So was it batteries?
No, it was a setting.
Oh, boy.
I'm not used to this one.
Okay, Peter, well, they're both the same, so.
No, they're not.
not. Same brand.
Anyhow,
Back to your reasons for being here.
why am I here? As I said earlier, when my mic wasn't working, I have a background in business, accounting, and economics, and I've always been very much for the small guy, the small business owner trying to make a living through our economy. And I think there's some very good philosophies on how to succeed in business, be it being self-employed or through your means of trying to contribute towards our society here. So I'm here to throw my 2 cents in from a background that I have and see what I can do to help people.
Great, thank you. So when the people that came here received a sheet, did you get one, Chris? And you need one, Chris? And on this sheet, it's a worksheet and an agenda. And on the worksheet, there's some questions here that we're going to go through before we start the videos. And these are for you to take notes on each video. So there's 4 sections for you to do a little note taking. And the questions that they say is, what about these videos was most compelling to you? So you can, each one of those, give your reasons for feeling touched by those videos. What in these videos feels actionable? In other words, something you can imagine taking action around, and at what level, local or national. So are these bringing to you usable ideas that we can turn into real action items? What remaining questions do you have on the issues that are discussed in the videos? And are you interested in helping spread these videos and other big ideas in the Big Picture series? So those are the questions that you hopefully will be able to answer during the process of watching the videos. So we are asking everybody at the end of the show, we're going to take a group photo. We're not going to do it now because we're broadcasting live, and I really don't want to bore the people at home with that. So we're going to move on, but we'll do that afterwards, and everybody will get a copy of that. We'll post it up on the event page as well so that it can be shared. Social media obviously is going to be a big part in getting the word out about this. So we want to do that. So at this time, I think we're ready to start the videos. Mark, if you're ready. And we start with our first video. And this one is called Reinvent Education. It's video number 5 of the 12 video series brought to you by Robert Reich and MoveOn.org. And with that being said, I'm going to have a seat and watch this.
Education is outmoded. Fixing it is crucial for our kids and the economy. Here's how. We have to reinvent education because it's not working for too many of our kids, who are either dropping out of high school or not getting the skills they need, or paying a fortune for college and ending up with crushing student debt. In the big picture, much of our education system, from the bells that ring to separate classes to memorization drills, was built to feed the assembly lines that powered the American economy in the last century. What we need today is education that provides the critical thinking skills necessary for the new economy. How do we get there? First, stop the wall-to-wall testing that's destroying the love of teaching and learning. Let's get back to a curriculum that builds curiosity, problem-solving, teamwork, and perseverance, and away from teaching to the test. Give teachers space to teach and give students freedom to learn. Next, limit classrooms to 20 children so teachers can give students the attention they need. Increase federal funding for education. Today, most public school students are poor. They need high-quality early childhood education, for starters, along with community-based schools that serve the whole child, with health services, counselors, and after-school activities. Offer high school seniors the option of a year of technical education, followed by 2 free years at a community college. The route into the middle class shouldn't always require a 4-year college degree. America needs technicians who can install, service, repair, and upgrade complex equipment. Fifth, make all of public higher education free. Higher education isn't just a personal investment. It's a public good that pays off in a more competitive workforce and better informed and engaged citizens. And most importantly, we must increase teacher pay. The law of supply and demand isn't repealed at the schoolhouse door. If we want talented women or men to make teaching their lives work, we have to pay them enough. We're paying investment bankers a fortune to attend to America's financial capital. We ought to be paying teachers and staff a decent wage to develop the nation's human capital. By reinventing education in these sensible ways, we all gain. That builds curiosity, problem-solving, teamwork, and perseverance, and away from teaching to the test. Give teachers space to teach and give students freedom. Can we address climate change and boost the economy? Yes, we can. Here's how. Have you ever asked yourself who's paying the real cost of all that carbon that's being spewed into the atmosphere? Who actually pays for rebuilding after deadly storms, taking care of kids with asthma, and dealing with the chaos of climate change? Droughts in some places, colder winters elsewhere, higher water bills, higher food bills. Here's a hint. Those who are paying the price are not big oil, coal, and gas. In the big picture, every ton of carbon that's released into the atmosphere costs our society between $40 and $100, and we burn billions of tons each year. But businesses don't pay that cost. They pass it along to the rest of us. Even worse, it's our money that's driving this. Since 2007 alone, more than $6 trillion has been invested in fossil fuels. Many of us are doing the investing, but don't even realize it. It's our money put into pension funds or educational institutions or through our taxes into state and local governments that's then going into oil, coal, and gas. It's a lose-lose proposition. But what if we flipped this script? For starters, let's stop investing in pollution and start divesting. Right now, you could go to MoveOn.org and start a petition to get a pension fund or city or university to pull its money out of polluters and start investing in green companies that generate equal or better returns. Even more important, impose a tax on carbon pollution. The sky belongs to all of us, but right now, polluters are getting away with poisoning it for free. We should start charging them rent. A simple tax on carbon would change the economics of polluting, forcing the market to make smarter choices, giving polluters a financial incentive to stop putting carbon into the atmosphere, and boosting non-carbon sources of energy. This tax could raise around $1.2 trillion over the next decade. We could use that money to create green jobs and rebuild infrastructure. Or we could do what Alaska does with its oil revenues and distribute the money equally to every American as a kind of dividend, a basic income for all Americans. Get it? Instead of investing our money in oil, coal, and gas, let's do the reverse. Divest from carbon polluters. Have them pay price to pollute. And we collect the money. Instead of lose-lose, it's win-win. We need to end mass incarceration now. Imprisoning large numbers of Americans is wrong. It's also racist. A person of color is more likely to be stopped by the police, questioned, and even arrested. Even if they've done exactly the same thing I've done, he or she is more likely to be convicted and sent to jail. It's also bad for the economy. In the big picture, today the United States has 5% of the world's population, but has 25% of its prisoners. And we spend more than $80 billion each year on prisons. There were fewer than 200,000 Americans behind bars as recently as the mid-1970s, but mandatory minimums and 3 strikes you're out laws ballooned that number to nearly 2.5 million today, despite widespread evidence that locking people up doesn't make us safer. Even though blacks, whites, and Latinos use drugs at similar rates, people with black and brown skin are more likely to be pulled over, searched, arrested, charged with a crime, convicted, and imprisoned. Here's how the economy also pays a huge price. A felony conviction can bar people from getting a student loan, a mortgage, even from voting. It might even disqualify them from getting a job. All of this means a lot of potential human talent is going to waste. We're spending a fortune locking people up who could fuel our economy and build strong communities. So what do? First, we need smarter sentencing laws, end mandatory minimums, and transform the way we treat people who enter the criminal justice system. Instead of just prisons and jails, cost-effective alternatives to incarceration, like job training and mental health and drug treatment programs. Second, stop the militarized policing and end discriminatory policing practices such as stop and frisk and broken windows that target communities of color. Third, stop building new jails, close some existing ones. States are spending more and more on prisons while cutting funding for schools. That's nuts. Finally, we need to ban the box. Stop asking on job applications whether you've ever been convicted of a felony. Already, dozens of states, cities, and counties have passed bills demanding that employers consider what you can do in the future, not what you might have done in the past. Instead of locking people up unjustly and then locking them out of the economy for the rest of their lives, we need to stop wasting human talent and start opening doors of opportunity to everyone. Most important of all, we must get big money out of politics. Here's how. Everything we want to achieve as a nation, addressing climate change, reining in Wall Street, ensuring free public higher education, everything else we've talked about in this series and more, rests in large part on whether we're able to get big money out of politics. In the big picture, we know that in the last presidential election year, 40% of all political contributions came from the richest 1/100th of 1%. Just 16,000 households worth at least $110 million each. We know that 2016 will be the most expensive election year in history. This kind of money comes with strings attached, tax favors, subsidies, bailouts, and quiet promises not to act in the public's interest, but in the moneyed interests. It's a broken system that needs fixing. Easy to say, but how do we do it? First, and most immediately, require full disclosure of all original sources of campaign money, so the public knows who's giving what to whom and can hold politicians accountable if they do favors for contributors while neglecting their responsibilities to all of us. If Congress won't enact such a law, the Federal Election Commission has the power to do it, and the Securities and Exchange Commission should do it for public corporations. Meanwhile, the president should issue an executive order requiring all federal contractors to fully disclose their political contributions. Next, our government should provide matching funds for small donor contributions. Say, $3 public dollars for every $1 from a small donor. Those public dollars could come from a checkoff on your income tax return indicating you want, say, $15 of your taxes devoted to public financing of elections. Third, and most importantly, we must reverse the Supreme Court's First Amendment decisions holding that money is speech and corporations have the political rights of people, and that therefore no laws can be enacted limiting the amount of money wealthy individuals or big corporations can spend on elections. Seeking a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United may itself build a social movement powerful enough to influence the court, like the movement that led to the historic Brown versus Board of Education decision. Ultimately, we need justices who understand that the freedom of speech of most Americans is drowned out when big money can spend as much as it wants. The fundamental rule for an economy that works for everyone is a democracy that works.
I always forget is to turn my mic on. So yeah, I mean, let's face it, I know me, I agree pretty much with everything he said, but I also think that these kind of concepts are hard to bring into reality. And so let's start by talking about the videos themselves based on the questions in the packet you have. First of all, what about these videos was most compelling to you? And please use a microphone if you want to comment on that. Which one meant the most to you? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Pete, if you want to weigh in on this too. The one about prisons and disclosure of campaign funds, I think would be the two most important things that could be done.
I think all the videos basically interconnect with each other. I think President Obama has already seen these, because in his actions he's about to take place, he's trying to incorporate all that, especially with the prison system. He was
Right.
visiting a federal prison just last week. So he's trying to do exactly what the videos were stating, trying to decriminalize the drugs offenders, trying to improve the educational reentry into society programs. And I think that has a lot to do with it. But more so, we go back to the first video, they're talking about job training and university and stuff. I think if the United States followed some of the Commonwealth ideas of actually having a true apprenticeship program that is
Absolutely.
also, quote, free, because it's a 2-year program most of the time. He just said he wants to offer community colleges to individuals for free. If we start concentrating more on apprenticeship programs and teaching trades, that would override any, some people are just not suitable for university.
Right.
They don't want to be,
I sure wasn't.
so, you know.
That's why I went to tech school.
Absolutely. So training people in construction jobs, be it masonry, be it, cabinet making, whatever, people learning electronics or even video processing here, it gives them an opportunity, those who are not quite made up to go to university, gives them an opportunity to actually have another trade, which actually can make more money than being in middle management. Now, the other part of it, that is, if you're training these individuals starting from the age of 16 and up, they may not be part of the criminal element as they're growing up. They have something to do, they're being more monitored.
Well, definitely, education creates less crime.
Yeah.
When you have more of an economic opportunity by having an education, by having a decent place to live, by having 3 square meals a day, you're going to be less inclined to go into a criminal activity, I think. So that in itself, by having the education, I think will reduce the prison population.
Correct.
By giving people an education. And I totally agree with the concept of tech school plus 2 years of junior college. Myself, I did 2 years of basic electronics in the 70s and was able to become a computer technician for many, many, many years in the beginning of computers. So I always look back on those days as, you know, a blessing for me to be involved in technology without having to go to a 4-year college. It was very, very gratifying.
Right, and that kind of ties into the prisoner population base. A couple of things that he addressed in a roundabout way. Number one, the amount of money the government is spending on prison systems is not really public systems anymore, prison systems. What it is private enterprise participating in the prison systems. So the private enterprise actually builds the prisons based on the specifications by the individual government, but then they charge the government a per inmate fee, and that can be anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 to $50,000 a year. And they provide the meal system, they provide all the security arrangements, et cetera, et cetera. And by having private corporations actually own the systems, you're giving the government incentive to put more people in prison.
Absolutely.
Because they get paid more money
And
per.
it's good for the economy.
Exactly. And I hate to say
The
this,
prison economy.
but in Arizona, some of the major shareholders in the private prison system was the governor.
Governor
and
Jan Brewer.
Right, and the head of Department of Corrections.
And
So there's,
also, what's his name, Joe Arpaio's family owned all the food
All the
systems that
concessions.
provided food for all the
right.
prisons. as
And the
well.
other thing, a part of that is that for those who, quote, deservedly belong in prison, some of them see the light. And what's happening is the systems or the educational classes that are required are really just a meaningless subjects that prisoners have to go to. There's not an incentive for them to want to go to these classes and want to learn more things about how to re-enter into society. And a lot of the courses that are taking place are not even being conducted by professionals. They're correctional officers who have kind of made their way up in the system, but they don't have the true training for educating people to go back into society or psychological training.
Right.
And I think there has to be an emphasis within the system on that.
Well, I think the other 2 videos also, like one about climate change and recognizing that there is climate change and making the big polluters pay. I had a problem with that in the beginning when they came up with this concept. Some of you may already know I went through training with Al Gore for climate reality leadership. And, that's one of the big items that they also promote. And I was skeptical of that because to me it's like you're paying off your conscience by paying off the pollution that you're creating by throwing money at the government. you are basically just paying for the mess that you're making instead of cleaning it up. Yes, they think that paying out millions of dollars is going to be an incentive, but some of these big corporations really don't care. They'd rather pay it, and they're not going to fix anything. So for that reason, I'm a little skeptical of that whole concept, but I do agree that definitely making polluters pay is very important. The other segment on the taking the money out of politics, obviously, is extremely important. I think 90% of the problems that we have that face our government and our people today is because of legislation that was brought on through corporations like Monsanto, through corporations that have been influencing the oil industry, that have been influencing the government through money ever since they decided, Citizens United, that corporations were human beings. So I definitely agree that that is definitely something that needs to change, and the signs are that it is actually going to be changing. It looks like there may
Hopefully.
be an amendment made that will take out Citizens United.
Okay.
So let's get back over to the audience, our little mini audience we have here. Go ahead, Chris.
One of the things that I think is, without a doubt, the most important part of the economy, the ecology, it's education. I had my own business. I had 2 stores, one in Brooklyn, one in Manhattan. It was called Earth General, and we provided everything you needed to live your life environmentally friendly. Body care, clothing, bulk cleaners, from everything from cat litter to high-end hemp clothing. If we don't stop teaching our kids the same information from the time they're in the 3rd grade to the time they're in the 12th grade about the American Revolution and the Civil War, if you don't have those things already, those concepts understood by the time you're in the 6th or the 7th grade, there's a problem. I was in Great Britain for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. When I came back to the United States, I found that not only was I ahead of all the people in my class, I was 2 years ahead. In Europe, when you're 16, you make decisions that impact your life for the rest of your life. You start to specialize at a very young age, which makes people entering the workforce much more educated in the grand scheme of where their job fits into the economy. I think we've got to stop thinking that the only way to get any kind of change is throw money at it, have, hold candlelight vigils. If we spent a quarter of the amount of money that we spend on the military, on health care and education, the United States would be unstoppable again.
Absolutely.
And
So
we
while
are
you're
falling
there,
behind.
let me ask you, what do you feel of the 4 videos? What do you feel is really actionable? What can we do that would be an actual local or national involvement that could help manifest some of these ideas?
I think you have to take it to the public. Most people who have children that are in the education system see the daily miscalculations and missteps and missed opportunities. I thank my lucky stars that I spent 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in a boarding school in London, because I came out of that situation much more who I was. It shaped everything about who I was going to become as an adult when I was in 6th grade.
What can we do on a local level to make these changes?
Right.
You gotta hire people in the local school. If you vote for a superintendent for your schools, find a superintendent that thinks outside the box when it comes to education.
Right.
Education, this isn't something that you can really make a huge difference in locally. We've got to see it come from the top.
Right.
And when the top is constantly saying that we don't need a Department of Education any longer, we just need to do away with that.
Right.
It's obscene, it's obnoxious, and for those of us who have gone through college and through graduate school, it's a little bit offensive.
Let me interject three things of what you talked about. You mentioned about your education in England. In Australia, which is the only thing I can talk of specifically, is that when you go through what their equivalent of high school is, when they get to fourth form, which is equivalent to a sophomore in college, in high school here, students have to take an exam. If they do very well in the exam, they're allowed to move forward to junior, senior year of high school and continue progressing. If they don't meet certain standards with the score, they're given the option to go to a vocational school. That takes the dropout rate from being extremely high to more moderate. So that's what I'd like to see in the United States, is give that option.
Right.
Number two, about how to enforce it at our level, is businesses have to be involved. We have an apprenticeship program here in the state of California, but there's absolutely no incentive
Nobody uses
by
it.
the state to provide opportunities for businesses to hire these people at not necessarily below minimum wage rates, but to supplement the rates. For an example, years and years ago, the federal government and the state of Arizona used to offer $1,500 per employee that the businesses hired. They're minority based or they're returning veterans. We could implement something like that. In lieu of that, businesses still could bring in, I hate to say this, but minimum wage workers, train them into the skills that they're looking for. And again, they can then progress from there.
Right.
Okay. The other thing is that regarding our school system, and I've seen this unfortunately too much in Arizona, is that school systems are top heavy. You have principals, vice principals of principals, admin, human resources, and they do it by district. And Lake County is very generated towards that. We have multiple school districts within a very small geographical area, very small population base.
Everybody goes out and does their own
So
thing.
the videos were indicating, well, we've got to reduce class sizes, we've got to pay more money to the teachers. Well, the only way that's going to happen is by eliminating the top-heavy part of the admin schedule. If you eliminate some of these vice principals or
Well,
other
the
staff.
supervisors, my goodness, the supervisors and their staff make huge money.
Exactly.
I graduated from the largest school district in the state of South Carolina. Was it a fantastic education? No. Did I get a good high school education? Yeah, I did. I learned a lot in high school. I learned less in undergraduate school and even less in graduate school.
Okay. Well, let me add one more comment on that then. Is I unfortunately, or fortunately, had to go to boarding school myself as a junior and senior in high school. My graduating class was less than 50 students. My class size was 20 to 30 students. My problem was the teacher taught to a very small percentage of students, those who grasped the concept or the subject matter, and he or she would talk directly to those individuals. Us who are a little bit slower learners in regard to certain subjects were put away. We were not allowed, we could not get that extra
Marginalized.
attention. We were not given the same benefit of the 1%.
And teachers have to be at the core of all of this. You know,
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
what they're setting in our children's minds is the future.
My mother taught school in the state of South Carolina for 37 years. The first year that I moved to New York City, I worked for the Gap. I made $11,000 more a year working for the Gap than my mother did with a PhD
Oh, I believe that.
teaching in the state of South Carolina.
Absolutely. Well, let's
Without
see
a
if we can
doubt.
get some other comments on what's been going on.
You wanna-
Robert, did you have anything to talk about on these videos?
Before he starts, why don't you tell the people listening at home how to Facebook
Yeah,
us?
if you'd like to comment on any of this discussion, you can go to the Facebook page. The event page is An Afternoon with Robert Reich. And you can just, put your questions up there, and we will address them here if you have anything you'd like to add or any comments you'd like to make. So,
Okay, I'm a great note taker when I definitely come to these events. But one of the things that I'm definitely concerned is the issue of getting the big money out of politics. And right now, I am getting really tired of hearing a Donald Trump who's really accusing people from Mexico and Central American countries, saying that when they come to this country, they don't have rights or anything. What Donald Trump doesn't really know, honestly, that when people come to this country, they're coming here to make a living.
Yep.
And to make statements like that, it is not fair. And I'm also getting really tired, Terry, of definitely seeing special interests, definitely getting into politics, and not having candidates like Bernie Sanders, who's really getting the donations out of the pocket, which I think it's really, really fair. But they're really not regulated by this, by the SEC, and they're not even regulated, by the Federal Electoral Commission. And they're doing whatever they can, for them to definitely win the race. And I'm really tired of this. And then not only that, Citizens United really makes me upset because we've been trying all along to say, let's get rid of Citizens United, let's get rid of it. I don't see nothing by our own government on this. So we got to do something to take back the power of the people.
I agree. I think there is going to be a measure presented to the people in the next election to get rid of it.
100% believe that that's important.
And it is.
Especially
That's one of the
when-
most
one-
important things.
Especially when one candidate right now is saying that he or she is going to raise $2 billion for their election campaign. Now,
But you're
I'm
not on
the
a
smartest
microphone.
bulb in the string.
Chris, can't hear you, you're not on.
Yeah,
mic.
and you should, Robert, are you
Yeah,
finished?
let Robert
finish.
Yes, I'm going to have Chris now speak up.
Okay, thank you.
I think, geez, now I've lost my track of thought. What was I talking about?
The,
So we've got one candidate that's saying that she has it in their sights to raise $2 billion for their election. $2 billion.
with very little disclosure where that
Dollars.
money's going to come from.
Well,
Yes.
the other thing is the super PACs
Yeah.
that are they've already said that they're going to spend upwards of $450 million per candidate to
Right.
discredit them and to.
Right. The negative campaigns.
We got to knock that off.
Very true.
It needs to be what needs to be the thing that makes you want to get out there and vote. It has to be a candidate that actually listens to the American people
Right.
and hears what we really want and need for this country.
Well, I think that's where Bernie Sanders comes in. He seems to be that person. Chris, number 2, is there anything else you'd like to add or questions that you might have? She's a quiet, shy kind of person. It's okay. You don't have to. Mark, anything from you?
Shall I move over the mic?
Yes?
Okay. Switch from point A to point B.
I think, like everyone's been saying, education is number one. We've got to completely change the way that we educate our children in this country. I think focusing on an individual instead of focusing as a whole. Not every child, not every person learns the exact same way.
Exactly.
So we've really got to work on individualized, tailored education per student. I know that's difficult, especially considering the lack of teachers that we have and our massive class sizes, but it's something that we've got to do. Otherwise, we're not going to move forward in the future with our education system.
Exactly.
I also think a complete restructuring of our jail system, our prison system, our judicial system is something that has to happen. We arrest people, we throw them in jail, and we don't recondition them, as Pete was saying. We don't help them move back into the public when they're released. We don't do anything but treat them like they're less than an animal. We basically create more criminals. We put them in there, someone who might have just made a simple, honest mistake, and when they come out, they're more dangerous than the point than when they went in.
They learn how to be criminals in prison.
Exactly. Yeah. You're not reforming the problem. I think one of the
Exactly.
greatest jokes of all is calling it a correctional facility. There's no corrections going on.
Definitely an oxymoron.
Yeah, rehabilitation. I mean, we're creating our own problem in this country, and it seems like the only people who are coming out on top are those who are the owners of the prison system, the jails, the prisons, the ones who are in charge of all this. They're the ones that are getting the step up.
Exactly.
And the rest of us are just going downhill.
So, based on what you saw today, can any of you give us any kind of action items that we can actually, as citizens, take action on any of the points that was brought up?
I think being, as far as education is concerned, being more involved on a local level in our education, voicing our opinions as much as we possibly can, working together to try and come up with different programs and solutions for our students and, you know, just everybody out there who wants to get an education, finding ways of making education less expensive past the high school diploma. And then as far as what goes on in our jails, honestly, I don't know. I mean, I think as far as what's concerned in the prison system, like Pete said, they have people teaching these classes, but they're not necessarily qualified.
Right.
Reach out, find qualified educators that would be willing to either donate their time or work for a very small stipend. And there's tons of educators out there, so there's got to be some out there that would be willing to do so.
Right.
And let's truly put reform into our prison systems.
Yeah, that's the best thing.
So.
We
Definitely.
also need to stop teaching kids the wrong information.
Well, our history has been so corrupted
Oh yeah.
by politics that we're no longer teaching the true history of America and the world, that's for sure. So yeah, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I want to thank everyone for coming, and I want to thank those of you who have tuned in online. I hope this may have opened up some doors, and I'd like to encourage you to watch the other segments. There is another 8 little 2-minute clips like that on other subjects as well with the big picture movement. And you can go to moveon.org for those videos as well. Was there anything else, Peter, that you wanted to mention or draw attention to?
Well, can I make a comment about
Absolutely.
Mark's comments?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
I believe that this whole process has to start, and I hate to use the term, at the grassroots level. I think individuals and business owners have to be more involved. I think business owners could possibly, or we could possibly do a presentation to the Chamber of Commerce, to the business associations, and explain to them that, hey, we have people coming out of prison that need jobs or need training. We have youth who have no jobs right now. How can we get them into the workforce? How can we generate an internship program and have them start from there? Maybe we can approach Sheriff Brian Martin here locally and say, hey, we have classes that we can do privately, not as part of the system. So as inmates are brought back into society after serving their debt, maybe there's a grant that's available or funding from the government, not directly from the prison system, to be able to educate these people on social skills, how to open up bank accounts, how to present themselves, how to go for a job application, and show them the basic fundamental skills on how to enter back in society. So if we get business owners to cooperate, if we get the chamber to cooperate, maybe get the prison officials to cooperate, maybe we can actually do something at our own level and not wait for big politics to occur.
Awesome.
That's
a really good feedback. Thank you. And I just want to remind everybody, if you are tuning in from home, you can still do your comments on the event page. We will be monitoring that if you have any more questions. We also probably will have another one of these events in the near future. We'll probably do the series that MoveOn.org is organizing. And basically our goal here today was to try to meet up with people that have similar ideas about our economy and helping, and also to kind of go in depth into the specific issues. So I think we accomplished that today, and I want to thank those of you that did come out and those of you that are watching from home. And please share this video with as many people as you can. Let's get the community engaged. Let's bring a group together that is willing to go in front of the Chamber of Commerce and is willing to go in front of the Board of Supervisors and discuss how changes, and the school board and the prison organizations, and discuss how changes can be made within our own local community, because by making those changes locally, we do go globally, believe me. It's like a ripple effect. So we can start here with those kind of things and hope that from this point on, we can look forward to a more positive future with our economy. All right, thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Woohoo! All right, mic's off. Roll the credits.